The primary races continue to heat up across the country, and today marks important runoff elections taking place in Alabama, Arkansas, and in Georgia. Both of former President Trump's endorsed candidates in Georgia, Vernon Jones and Jake Evans, are both in really tightly contested races. While in Alabama, Trump-endorsed Katie Britt looks to earn a big victory over her rival, Congressman Mo Brooks. Here with us now to talk about all of this and discuss the primaries and a lot of other news is the executive director of Iranian Americans for Liberty. He's also former Pennsylvania congressional candidate and a Newsmax columnist, Bryan Leib. Bryan, great to have you with us. You've been down this road, so you understand it. How do you think things are going to come out tonight, especially with the Trump-backed candidates?
Well, Donald Trump certainly has quite the record so far, Rita, this year with his endorsements that he's made. So I do think I think that's going to prove to be what's going to happen throughout the country right now. And then with that said, they're both very, I think in my opinion, good candidates down in Alabama in particular. I happen to know Mo Brooks very well. He's a patriot, he's a fighter, as is the other individual too. So we're going to see what the voters think, but all signs point to Donald Trump-backed candidates have been doing very good so far this year throughout the country.
And how key is that endorsement? I mean, boy, it was pivotal. You look even in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz, and obviously J.D. Vance in Ohio. I can think of a lot of examples. That is a coveted endorsement, clearly.
Well, it's coveted for a reason. I mean, the Trump base is still very much alive and pumping all throughout the country, and we certainly saw that most recently in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz. I don't think Dr. Oz would be in the position he's in right now going into the general if it wasn't for President Trump's rousing endorsement of him. So yes, Rita, you're correct. The Trump endorsement is still very coveted, and it's also very important coming into the November elections that we have coming up.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to talk a little bit about some foreign policy, which you know well too, of course, Bryan. We all remember one of the earlier debacles with the Biden administration, and that was their botched withdrawal from Afghanistan big time, which the U.S. military, where they basically allowed billions of dollars in military equipment and weaponry to fall into the hands of the Taliban. Also left those prisons, all the inmates got wide open. I mean, it was a disaster. Now, fast forward to today. Afghan refugees are continuing to try to enter the U.S. These are many of the folks who helped our American military. They're our great allies. And this was a stunning report, Bryan. 90% of these people's requests have been denied. And that is a stunning number. And then you kind of juxtapose that with what's happening at our southern border, which remains wide open with millions entering since Biden took office. Does this make any sense to you, Bryan?
No, I mean, Rita, unfortunately it doesn't, and I don't think the Biden administration's policies on a lot of things makes a lot of sense. Certainly when it comes to immigration, it doesn't make a lot of sense. During that Afghanistan debacle that you mentioned, there certainly were tons of Afghan allies that we had promised that we would bring over here, and we should, because they were helpful to us and to our allies, and especially to our American soldiers. But also, there were no vetting whatsoever. People were jumping on planes left and right, and in a lot of cases we were getting random Afghanis out before we were getting our own soldiers and our own citizens out. Yeah, it's tough to see the video that you're playing right now. I remember that day. I remember that happening, and remembering the Americans that were stranded in Afghanistan as we were just willy-nilly letting anyone getting on the planes. But yeah, I'm not surprised that the Afghanis that helped us and the ones that really want to be here for the right reasons are now having trouble. President Biden's his policies on a lot of things, especially foreign policy, but especially immigration, I think we all know it's broken and it's time to fix it.
Yeah, I agree. And heartbreaking, because those people were so supportive of us at a critical time for us, and we just left them stranded, and we have not been in a rush to get them here. And you're right, they appreciate this country. And again, that border is wide open. I mean, the double standards are just incredible and disgusting. Meanwhile, Bryan, another crisis created by the Biden administration has been allowing Iran to move closer to owning nuclear weapons once again. But what I think is really awful to see is that leaders in the U.S. are basically bowing to one of the biggest funders of terrorism in the world. In fact, Senate Democrat Chris Murphy of Connecticut is now for appeasing these terrorists and is for putting Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps basically ahead of our own proud men and women in the military, giving them status. I mean, this is crazy. They are taunting our proud warships. How do you make sense of this? And then it looks like, again, the Biden administration is coddling, clearly, Iran with Russia.
Well, listen, it's very simple, Rita. Shame on Senator Chris Murphy for putting the interests of the IRGC ahead of the American people and his constituents in Connecticut. Just a couple weeks ago, the Islamic Republic of Iran signaled that they would be serious about entertaining negotiations with us if we were to take the IRGC off of the State Department's FTO list. So sure enough, without any hesitation, Senator Murphy took to MSNBC and publicly lobbied for the IRGC, who has the blood of hundreds of American soldiers, hundreds of Israelis, and let's not forget thousands of innocent, liberty-seeking Iranian people on their hands. And Chris Murphy wants to take them off of the FTO list. And now, just recently, in the Strait of Hormuz, you just played the video of IRGC naval vessels taunting American warships. How are we not pulling out of diplomacy with the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism as they continue to taunt our warships in open water? I've got news for you, Rita. If I was the commander-in-chief, or if I was even the commander of that warship, I would have blown those ships out of the water. No hesitation whatsoever. Unfortunately, all our woke military did was send out a warning flare. So as I've said many times on this program and on Newsmax to your viewers, it is high time for President Biden to pivot back to a maximum pressure, maximum sanctions campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and he's got to start projecting some strength onto the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. That's the only language that they are ever going to understand, Rita.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, before I let you go, I got to ask you back to domestic politics about former President Trump. First of all, he spoke on Eric Bolling's show, The Balance, yesterday. Here he is discussing one of the other likely possible Republicans who may choose to run for president in 2024. Of course, that is Governor DeSantis.
Well, I don't know that he wants to run. No, I have a good relationship with Ron. I don't know that he wants to run. I haven't seen that. You're telling me something that I have not seen. So we'll see what happens. But if he did, he did. But no, I was very responsible for him getting elected, as you know.
So, Bryan, what do you make of that? And DeSantis, do you think he is a likely contender in 2024?
I think if President Donald Trump decides not to run for election in 2024, individuals like Ron DeSantis and many others will be lining up for that nomination. But as we talked about earlier in the program, and the Trump endorsement and how coveted it is from individuals seeking re-election and also newcomers seeking election, I think that tells us that the Trump base, the Republican base, is still leaning very heavily towards Donald Trump. And let me be clear, Ron DeSantis is a fantastic governor. I'm a new resident of Florida here over the last 6 months, and Florida is a great place to be under the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis. But I think he and a lot of others are up for an uphill battle if they decide to run against Donald Trump in 2024.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone is waiting to see what President Trump will do first. Thank you, Bryan, Leib. Always great, and so many great topics to get with you. Thank you very much.
Great to see you again, Rita. Thank you very much.
You too. And everybody.